Morning, Chris. Good morning, Carl. How we doing?
Fair, partly cloudy. You?
Yeah. Um, quick heads up, we're not gonna have quorum today. So all recommendations we have are, they won't be a vote. What you can do, Chris, is you'll still go to landmarks just like you would at the
Okay.
next meeting or whatever meeting you're scheduled for. We
Okay.
just can't give a formal recommendation today because we will only have 3 out of 6 members.
Got it. Okay.
Nate, did you get my additional photos that I sent you for
I
the first
did.
one?
Yes, and if you want to like run through those after they do their presentation, that's fine with me. If not, they're gonna go to landmarks as well, I'm pretty sure, because we don't want to hold them up or any applicant.
No.
Yeah.
So we only have 3. Who's missing today?
Yeah, so Doug is on vacation, and I got an email just now from Marika saying she can't make it, and then Chris emailed me this morning saying he can't make it either, so.
Well, is 3 of 6 is half, so why would that not be quorum?
I talked to Ben and we thought that quorum was 50% plus 1, so the majority of,
Okay,
yeah, that's how I understood it.
okay.
Either way,
Otherwise, yeah, otherwise it could potentially hang at 50 and then, yeah.
right.
Well, with 3 people, it won't.
That's true. I just don't know, like, legally.
Yeah, I wouldn't just go with, just say we don't have quorum, but we're
Yeah.
not holding up the projects.
Exactly.
That's how our standard has been.
Good morning, Margaret.
Morning, Nate. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing okay.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. You too.
Good morning, Cameron. Margaret, I'll let everybody know this as well when they get in, but we're not going to have quorum today. So everything we do will be, no vote. The standard of it.
Okay.
But I will also explain that once everybody's in here. Good morning, Leighan.
Hi, it's Leighan. Sorry, I was
Leighan, I'm
signed in as my
sorry.
son. I was signed in as my son. I was like, oh no, I'm my child.
My apologies, Leighan.
Oh, that's okay. It happens every day of my life.
So we're waiting on just two other members. Leanne, I'll explain this to everybody else once they're all in the meeting, but we're not going to have quorum today, which just basically means that whatever recommendations made here today will not have a final vote taken on them. But we're not going to be holding up any project regardless of the feedback received. So you can still schedule for a landmarks review meeting as they ultimately have the final say anyways.
Okay.
So whatever recommendations are heard today, again, there will be no formal vote on that. And
Okay.
you can still schedule with landmarks for your review for that.
Okay, well, if we do go to landmarks then and we don't have a quorum vote, will they then kick it back, or how does that work? Or they just get to make their decision?
They will make their decision. Carl might be able to speak more on that as he is the landmark staff.
Okay,
And I just got an email from Alex saying he had to restart his computer.
Worth buying another stroller if we do need to ask it to last 3 more years.
That much at least, right? You seem like a.
So Alex will be on in 1 second and then we can start.
I'm here, Nate.
Oh, okay. Hello. Okay, so I just saw Antonia and Alex come in. So again, we won't have quorum today. So all recommendations will not be voted on. We'll still run the meeting as normal, and you'll give your feedback, and both applicants can still proceed to landmarks for final review. And then so our chair, when Doug is not here, I believe is Antonia. Give me 1 sec to start recording. Am I already recording? Oops.
I think so, because it gave me that notification.
I forgot to
when I
pause
logged
it when
in.
I first came in. Okay, that's fine. I'll edit this part out. Okay, Antonio, whenever you're ready, you can call the meeting.
Okay, we're calling today's meeting Thursday, March 3rd, Ohio City Design Review Committee to order. Do
Okay,
you call the
I'll call the roll. Margaret Land,
Here,
Antonio Marinucci,
here?
Alex Frondorf,
Here.
Doug Wall, Chris Lozier, Marika Clark are all absent. So again, I will state for the record, this meeting does not have quorum. All recommendations given will not have a vote taken on them, and the applicants can still proceed to landmarks for final review. With that, our first applicant is 3814 Whitman siding, and Leighan Croxen is here to speak on that. So let me pull that presentation up.
Nate, I have to also recuse myself from this one. It's the Croxen.
Okay, that's fine. We won't be taking a vote anyway, so that's okay.
I know, but just
For the record, good.
correct.
Absolutely. Oops, sorry. Okay, so whenever you're ready, Leanne.
All right, so we are back here presenting, or I am, my husband's not available today, on our proposal for replacing our siding. So if we can go to the summary, we're proposing to replace our current wood, board, and batten siding that has some signs of rot with either the Ascend composite cladding, which we presented at our last meeting, or a hardy board plank siding. So just a brief history. To our knowledge, our home was constructed about 1890. This is a picture of our home that was found on Google Earth from 2011. So from what we've gathered, the wood siding is not original, but installed some point in the mid to late 1900s. Unfortunately, we have not been able to obtain any historical, like true historical photos of the home previous to this 2011 photo to show what its materials and look were in its originality. So our current home siding. I actually included this picture on the right specifically to show what they did right when they renovated our house in about 2017, 2016. So our current materials are some vertical board and batten on the northwest and east facing sides. And then on the south facing side, we have horizontal wood. The bottom half has been replaced. As you can tell, there was some kind of faux brick previously. So this got replaced with the 2017 renovation. But what they did do correctly, and this, as you can see from the right, there's this bottom finishing piece that helps prevent moisture from going up into the up behind the siding, which we have a problem when we go to our current issues. On the east facing side of the home, it was not properly finished off at the bottom. So it has allowed water damage to the panels and water to get up underneath the panels. They're rotting from the bottom up on the entire side of the home. Significant damage and moisture has also been noted in the rear and north facing side of the home. The west has been saved from the majority of damage just because of how close we are to the other house. So this photo, as we see, is the east facing side. You can see some warping of the wood. We had to replace a piece, well, not really replace it. We had put a window in, and when they took the old window out was when our contractor let us know that there was some significant damage underneath where he took it out. So for some additional photos of the east side, kind of taking a photo from the bottom up so you can kind of see how that wood is warping. The next slide is the north facing or rear side of the home. The right picture shows where the wood is rotting and kind of starting to break away completely. On the left, we see without proper finishing, there's been there's mold in those wood panels. And then the next slide is showing the west facing side of the home. It's in much better condition. Like I said, it's protected better from the elements, but still seeing some, it's not the best quality or condition. The next slide, we're going to see our challenges that we've had with replacing with the same material. We've made several attempts to get estimates to just replace the damage, or even to get an estimate of what needs to be replaced as was recommended by the board previously. Most siding companies, as you probably know, do not work with wood siding. We have been no-showed by 3 contractors that were scheduled to look at the project and provide us estimates. Due to these repeated frustrations and my own time constraints, I have tabled trying to hunt anyone down for wood siding for the time being, till spring. What we are proposing is that we would replace all sides of the home with a material that's consistent to those seen in the other houses in the neighborhood. We would like to circumvent these contractor issues and the time requirements of replacing the wood and repainting the full structure. Previously, we wanted to use a non-vinyl material called Ascend composite cladding, but we are willing to settle for hardy plank if it would please the committee and make this process more smooth. We are committed to maintaining the current details of our home. We will work with the siding contractors to make sure that these details around the windows and borders are maintained and look as they currently look. Next, I'm showing some hardy plank examples on Whitman Avenue. So I didn't even have to go through Ohio City. These are all on our street, on our block, and inspiration for what we would like to see moving forward in our home. And then this next house is an example of a hardy plank lap siding. We would like to do an evening blue color with white trim. And you can even see in the stock photo from James Hardy, there is a trim around the window very similar to our rear windows that we would like to maintain. And the last slide, I know this is a long shot, but hey, shoot your shot if you want to. This is the Ascend composite cladding siding in Riviera Dusk, and the information about it. Also proposed for all sides of our house. It's a glass reinforced polymer and graphite infused polyester material that we would love to use if it pleased the committee. And that's all I have today for you guys.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Questions or comments?
So Jen, I see Nia talking, but I don't know if.
She
No, I'm
recused
talking.
herself.
Okay,
so,
all right.
yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm
right. I
recused. I'm talking
apologize.
to my
Okay.
husband. Sorry.
Sorry. So I definitely see the need to replace the siding and especially the board and batten that's not appropriate in the first place. Generally, when we've approved the hardy board siding, we approved the smooth finish, and it does not appear to me that the Ascend material, at least not in,
Right.
in what's in this, comes in the smooth finish.
It doesn't. And I remember you making that comment previously, and I'm totally okay with, like I said, I'm okay with going with James Hardy, and I'm okay with going smooth. My main priority is protecting my home from the elements. So absolutely.
And
okay
then
with that.
just to be clear, you'd be doing a complete tear up. You're not just replacing the board and batten, you're replacing everything.
I'm doing
then.
everything. I want to do everything. I don't want to have to piecemeal it or anything like that. I'm going to replace everything.
You say you work with the contractor to, are you going to replicate the wood trim surround, were you going to use that exact shape, or do you have a drawing or something to show us that of what that
All I
trim would
have,
be?
I mean, I haven't, so we've kind of dropped off with our contractor because of, getting denied last time. So it would replicate exactly. I have no desire to change anything. All I have is the picture that James Hardy provides of how they wrapped that window. And I know from going through their materials that is something, that is a service that they provide, that they can do the window wrapping.
I've seen that handled in a couple different ways. I've seen the trim done with the Hardy or an AZAC material, but other times I've seen contractors that use just a wood surround and then coil wrap that, which is like a metal sheet. And I would not want to see that. So I guess
No, I have no desire to put any wood on my house ever again. So that would not be my preferred. It's probably less expensive probably to do that, but cutting corners and doing this inexpensively is not my goal.
might have another question, but if somebody else wants to jump in.
Margaret, it's just the two of us, I think, so.
Okay, right. Oh, right, Alex, sorry.
My strong preference is that the wood remain where possible. And that's just the nature of being in the historic district, to replace like materials with like materials. I think, I don't know how Margaret feels. I'd probably be willing to, let you do the Hardy board, or recommend the Hardy board for the non-public facing sides, the back of the house, maybe the two sides of the house as well. But I'd like to see the wood remain on the front of the house, and to maintain those details. And where you have the vertical wood boards, it's my hunch that those are not original, and that if you're taking them off and you wanted to replace them with horizontal boards, that would be fine and probably even recommended. Though as it's there now, you're welcome to keep that. Though I think it would be more true to the historic nature of the home to, if you're taking it all off, when you put it back on, to do it horizontally.
But yeah, I assume that that's what you were proposing.
My preference was vertical, or sorry, my preference was horizontal, just to make
Okay.
everything the same
Yeah.
as the front
Okay.
of the house.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, because it's kind of piecemealed now. I don't know how that ended up where the house is horizontal and then the sides are vertical, and I would like it to be consistent.
Carl,
I
do you
guess
have-
go ahead, Alex.
I saw Carl's hand up. I didn't know if he had
Oh.
something to add.
Yeah, hi. I sent some extra photos. It would help with context. Nate, could you pull up the
Sure.
photos that I sent you of the whole house? This way you can see it all in kind of context, and you might be able to point out some additional. And I also, just because we weren't familiar with the Ascend product too much, I sent it down to the state for a reaction, and they felt that material was too much like vinyl.
Okay.
So because in the way it's applied and how flat it is, and that it would probably not be appropriate on primary facades in a historic district.
I know within the Restoration Society with our Heritage Home program, I think we've approved that for a garage that's not front to the street. But same, we investigated, we felt it was a little too fine. Like, so I feel like that one, I don't know that those window surrounds on the first floor are original. Are they
No,
I feel like that's conjectural.
those were done in 2017. So as you can see, the photo from 2011, even those windows weren't there previously. Those windows were very small previously.
Yeah, and because there are alterations for the front, I guess I differ with Alex a little bit because I feel like this has already been
Mangled.
Yeah, so it wouldn't bother me to have a fully hardy, and it honestly wouldn't bother me if you prefer the simpler, more traditional squared trim around all the windows. I would like to see what is proposed as the final, but that's just my opinion.
Possibly reuse some of the wood from the sides and the rear. That's good, and move it to the front and keep the profiles here. And then you're matching the profiles. Because also you have to remember that a porch is going to be going on here. So some of this is going to be blocked as well.
That's true. So there is a front porch that's already been approved. We actually are meeting with zoning next week. But yeah, everything will be maintained, but it won't be as visible as previously.
Any other questions or comments?
I think there's one more of the rear as well.
Oh.
There you go.
You can take your mask off. Don't you guys love the backhoe that I keep in my backyard? It's actually not there anymore, I'm happy to say.
Yeah, I think I'm fine to go along with the hardy. My preference, though, even though the front is not original and historic, and I know that it's been mangled over the years, is to maintain the wooden materiality on the front of it. I understand your reasons why you don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, even look, I'm so beaten down that I would be almost just be like, sure, yeah, okay, except that I do feel like at some point I would have to replace it eventually. And I would end up doing that replacement. And with us putting this front porch on, it's just an ideal time to just fix all of it. There's going to be damage to what's existing as we add this front porch. Can you please stop? I'm just trying to finish this up. I love you dearly, but please stop.
No.
Sorry, I had.
I mean, if kept up, I mean, wood will last. I mean, there are homes in Ohio City with the original wood cladding that are well over 100, 120 years, 140
yeah,
years.
I mean, ours,
as long as they're
at
maintained,
least 130 years. So yeah.
I'm not putting my foot down. It's not a mandatory. I think it's a strong preference. So
okay. I respect that.
So I guess what if Nate shares with Landmarks that we would approve the smooth sided horizontal hardy, but that some of the commission has a preference to maintain the wood on the front, and then.
Yeah, and of course I'll state, didn't have quorum, can't take a vote. The ball is.
I would
Landmark.
have you just form it in the, make it like you're making your recommendations normally and list everything.
Sure.
That way it's pretty clear as to what, including the window surrounds, that they're not original. Just form it in that way that you're okay with it going all horizontal. I think that would be appropriate, and that way there's clear direction for the commission.
I'll make sure.
Just so you know, I'm not, I want you to understand the reasons for my recommendations. We receive a lot of applicants who want to take off the wood that is historic, that it has been there for the duration.
Absolutely.
Of the home. And we have to kind of juggle juggle that. And while your house is easily distinguishable in that the wood is not original, is not historic, I'm just trying to maintain some consistency, even though there are distinguishing factors between applicants. So I just
Well,
wanted
and I
you to
understand you
that.
don't want to set any kind of precedent where they come back and say the Croxens got to replace their side. So I get it. I respect that and I understand where you're coming from.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
If
But
there's
thanks for
no,
clarifying.
if there's no further questions or comments, then we will move to the next item. And thank you for presenting.
Nate,
Thank
can
you
you
all.
read back
Thank
what
you.
the recommendation is going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. The recommendation is going to be essentially that because of the non-historic windows and the alterations over the period of time, some of the committee members felt it was okay to replace it with the hardy board material, and some expressed a feeling that the public-facing front should remain wood, but the rest could be replaced. So there wasn't a final, what's a good word for that? There wasn't a final agreement, but it was generally understood what the applicant was trying to do. And they were okay with that. Something like that. Sorry, you put me on the spot.
I would add, just so that the record's complete, Nate, that none of the wood on the house is original.
Okay.
That is a distinguishing and important factor in my
Yes.
consideration. And that the hardy board be smooth, hardy board not grained.
And actually, I've thought of one other thing. The replacement would include corner boards.
Okay.
Do you agree, Alex? Because
do.
with the hardy, it either has to be corner boards or a mitered edge, and they will not allow hardy to miter to a wood that it violates the warranty on the product. So if you do keep the wood front, then the corner board is an allowable cover for that. Because also when you take off the back, that board, there's gonna have to be corner boards.
Yep.
Okay.
You were okay with the color that was proposed?
I didn't give much thought to that.
Okay.
It's that dark blue.
Mhm.
Did you have a proposal for the trim to go with that around the windows? Were you going to keep it white or?
I plan to keep it white. Actually, so it'll be white in the back and then it's actually red on the sides. A final decision really has, it's painted on the actually inside of the window frame. So that will be red. But on the back and the front where it's white, it will stay white.
Somewhere Ohio City Inc., I think it's Ohio City Inc., or has a palette of historic colors. I don't know if you've seen that. Or I
I've
don't know.
seen it. Yeah,
Okay.
I did reference it when we were looking at colors. It's actually very easy to find, so thank you.
Margaret, do you have any thoughts on colors?
No, I mean, we've noted before that the white, we prefer to not have a glacier white, something that is more cream.
Okay.
Traditionally, you probably would have had a darker sash and a lighter body, but I don't feel like that it needs to be strongly imposed. I just would recommend something that's creamier rather than the glacier white.
Okay.
Well, great. All right. So if there's no further comments and questions, we'll move to our second item. Thank you, Leighan, for presenting.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
And so the next item on the agenda is the new construction on 4612 Clinton. And Chris Rood is here to speak for this case.
Morning, everybody. Actually, 2 minutes to afternoon, but thanks for having me. And we've made some adjustments based on previous feedback that I'd like to run you through. If you want to advance to the next slide. Again, This is location, Zone 2 family. Area District B, Height District 1. If you want to go to the next slide, since we've already seen this. These are the previous surrounding context photos. You want to go to the next slide? And again, looking south towards Clinton. We provide some additional photos to show how the construction is progressing with the house that is to the east of the lot. And then also a front-on image of the house to the west of the lot. And then again, some neighborhood contextual photos that we had reviewed previously. On the site plan, per previous recommendations, we moved the entire house eastward to get a little bit closer to that east property line to give a little bit of relief from the house to the west. You can see now we have 8-foot spacing from the edge of the house to the proposed property. And then another recommendation that was made that we included was additional privacy fence along the west facade. And again, these are just the floor plans that were previously reviewed. You can go ahead and scroll through. One of the things you'll notice, if you go back to the previous slide, one of the things you'll notice is that we did reconfigure the porch slightly to be more in relation with the elevation in terms of essentially eliminating what would be unused space and tighten the porch up in the railings in relation to the entry. One of the comments from the owner was that they wanted to maintain the side entry because of the relationship to the double high foyer and the transition into the living space versus reconfiguring that front door. And again, the level 2 floor plan that we previously reviewed. Now, one of the things you'll notice on the front elevation, per recommendations, we tried to normalize the mullion pattern in relation to the dimensions, both on the right and the double high left-hand space. We also eliminated the banding, and we created essentially an increased profile, number one, on the actual front profile of the roof. And we adjusted the roof slightly to better match the roof profile of the property to the west. So our roof height increased slightly. We did look at doing a full 12-12 roof profile, and it was not desired by the owner in terms of aesthetic preference. And again, another thing you'll notice with the exception of the portion of the south street facing facade, the amount of brick overall was reduced considerably. I know that was one of the comments that we received in terms of reducing overall the amount of brick. The owner still desires the gray brick color. So if you want to go to the next one. So a couple things you're going to see in these elevations that are also going to change. You're going to notice there's a portion of the north elevation to the left that in this iteration is showing as brick. That will also go to siding. And then essentially the brick was reduced from the elevation below that, if you scroll down on the west elevation. And then what we wanted to do is show proportionally how the house relates to the houses that are on either side in terms of size and spacing. So this is a additional contextual elevation that was added to show that, and also to show where the privacy fences are in relation to the house. Again, our material palette, the siding, we switched from a wood grain to smooth per recommendation. If you want to go ahead and scroll down. The other thing we want to do is to update the perspectives to show more accurate spacing and context of the house in relation to the neighboring houses, and then show the additional privacy fence. And then you can also see the porch reconfiguration in relation to that facade. And again, here you can see how the house lines up in relation to the neighboring house to the west. And then again, this shows the courtyard area. And then the backside of the house in relation to the neighboring property.
Committee members, questions or comments?
Yeah, I think my, can you go back? That's perfect right there, Nate, go back down. Yeah, that's perfect. I think my biggest issue and concern here is and remains with the windows. Are
Okay.
any of those windows operable?
They will be, yes.
So they're different than what is drawn there, or am I looking at something different?
No, they ultimately will be operable. And
Is
that's-
double hungs or in what guard casement, or what are we looking at?
We have discussed double hungs for those windows.
Okay, and will that change what we're looking at on the screen here then?
The mullion relationships would change slightly, yes.
Because I think, I mean, that's a huge factor in my consideration of this, because the windows right now look too commercial and they look out of place in a historic district. And the lentil that's on top of it, I don't know, is that like supposed to look like sandstone, or what are you going for there?
Yeah, that would be a sandstone band up top.
Okay, so two things on that. That needs to be thicker. It's ill proportioned, and
Okay.
it needs to continue over it needs to be longer than the length of the window. Because
Got it.
lentils are supposed to be structural. That's why they're there. And when you have it in line with the window, it doesn't do its job, and it's visually, it's disturbing visually because it doesn't show you what it's doing or how it's doing it.
Okay.
In other words, it's just entirely superfluous.
For the operable portions going to be the outside of the tripart, or I guess, yeah, I'm with Alex, like I'm trying to understand how the window will operate.
Ultimately, yes, it would be outboard. The problem is the profile isn't reflecting that right now.
And the fenestration, the windows across the whole board, you have 1, 2, 3, you have 4 different window types again. And you should have no more than 2. It's visually cluttered. It's not, it doesn't match the fenestration of the historic district. It's not orderly, it's garbled.
Okay.
Also, it can be challenging to get an operable double hung in when it gets too wide.
Mhm.
So I guess understanding what is actually available, what the sizes are, might inform how this looks.
Okay, and then I'll just continue down my list here and I'll try to make it quick. The gray brick color, I think, is a mistake. Cleveland is gray enough as it is. That's not a brick color that you're going to find an example of, or not that I can recall in the historic district. I'm not a fan of that. I can't go along with that. The foundation there, what are we looking at? Is that whitewashed concrete, or what is that?
On the left-hand side, that's actually planters.
Okay, and then so then what will be the foundation? What will the pedestrian see as he or she walks past on the street level?
What you see at the base, that's a sandstone paneling that would go in there over foundation.
Real sandstone or?
If you go back to the, if you go to the materials,
No, sorry, Chris, I should have
it's a precast stone.
cast stone.
Yep.
And is that the same material that the lintel would be?
Yes.
I think that you'd want. I don't think that that's right. I think you'd want to either have the brick materiality for your foundation going down as far as you can, so that you don't see that faux concrete or faux stone popping up like that.
Chris, is the floor plate of that porch level, do you know like approximately where it is off grade at the front?
Yeah, if you go back to the elevation.
That's good.
Yeah, it's approximately 3 feet.
And that's
2'8", I
that
believe, yeah.
consistent with the porch heights?
Yes, yeah.
Block? Okay.
And the idea was to elevate that to be consistent, yes.
Mhm.
No, that's fine. I like that. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand how much of that surface would be visible.
Well, it'll be, yeah, it'll be visible in the front, and then if you go back to the
Yeah, I saw it slopes.
Yeah,
Really shush.
slope up, yeah.
Yeah, it slopes at the rear. Yeah. Nate, for my benefit, since I wasn't at the first review of this one, would you mind just giving a really quick overview of any comments? And was this reviewed by Landmarks conceptually or not?
This was reviewed by Landmarks conceptually.
Okay. You just give me like really brief cliff note stuff.
Yeah, let me find it real quick.
Sorry, I don't mean to be a pain. I just
No worries,
don't-
no worries. Okay, yeah, I got
Nate,
it.
if you want, Nate, I have the comments that were given and then essentially our responses to those.
Okay,
I don't know if you want me to send that or share my screen.
I think you can definitely send that to us and that's fine.
Okay.
I thought I had more.
Chris, do you have it like in writing? Like, could you just send it in the chat and then I can read it in my,
Yeah, actually, let me copy it and I can send it in the chat.
perfect, because then we don't have to waste.
Yep.
I can just read it.
Sorry about that. I had to correct the numbering. I got the address wrong at first.
Unfortunately, it looks like there's a word count limit in the chat.
That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Can you do it in multiple messages or will it not let you talk that much in there?
Yeah, it's limiting word count. I apologize.
That's okay.
Do you want me to just screen share?
I don't think
Or
we
should I
can
just
Yeah, I don't think we can let you screen share.
got it? Nate, let me just send it to you.
Okay, that'll be good. Pause this for 1 second.
While Nate's working on that, I would just say that my largest concern, similar to Alex, the number of different kinds of window openings. I do appreciate that they were made a little bit more symmetrical on the building, but I still am concerned about that. But I think even more, I think I am responding to the fact that that gray brick, it's not anywhere in the historic district. It just feels like a foreign material. Whereas like, I think the gray lap siding would be more of a compromise. And I even think that that panel, that concrete panel would read better if it was the lap siding instead of the brick.
Okay.
And then Chris, my final comment, though I don't know that my colleagues will agree with me on this. The site plan, I really think the garage needs to line up with and be closer to the alley and not be so set back from the alley. That's, trying to maintain consistency down Wheat Court.
And I know that was discussed previously. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
and also for the owner, I mean, you yield a lot of valuable real estate and land, kind of jettisoning it into the, not usable realm.
mhm. And that was discussed with the owner, and the main issue that the owner had was increasing square footage in terms of the connecting breezeway. They did not want to increase additional square footage on that.
Right, which is, I mean, see, most homes in Ohio City are detached garage, in excess of 95% probably are all detached garages. And so you're running up to that issue because you're trying to have an attached garage. And that's the exact issue that results from doing that. And it is the common site plan in Ohio City to have a house in the front, garage in the back, yard in the middle. I mean, that's the sort of the cadence of it. And I understand that you're trying to connect the two, and there's costs associated with spacing them out. But I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I kind of feel strongly about that.
There we go.
I don't, to that point, I don't disagree, obviously, that with the cadence and the typical pattern of the neighborhood. However, in this case, I think I would defer to the owner's preference, especially given that Wheat Court is so narrow when we're backing up to industry, that it does actually give a little breathing room from a safety perspective, pulling in and out and navigating into the alleyway. So I think I can be I'm personally flexible and would be fine with what they want.
That's fair. Could there be a little bit of a give between the two, like just extend it a little bit closer to the alley?
We could certainly explore that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Antonio's points are very fair points, but I wonder if there's maybe more of a middle ground there to explore. All right, so it looks like Landmarks also said, what are we looking at here, Nate?
This is the notes from our previous design review meeting.
Okay.
And many of the points were brought up by Landmarks as well. So it essentially echoed the previous Ohio City meeting.
Wasn't one of the recommendations to switch the brick and the Nichiha siding?
Yes, and we explored that through a couple design iterations, and that was one that the owner pushed back on.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for providing that, Chris. I think, and I apologize that I wasn't able to be at your first presentation to our committee. I still, two things for me, I think that still stand out is I do still feel like the roof pitch should be increased. And I know that we're playing a fine game of not overwhelming, because it is a wider house and I don't want to overwhelm the facade. But if they were maybe open to increasing the pitch, maybe just on the front portion of the house, not, you know, the entirety of the house, maybe just the front portion.
Yeah, because
And-
I had shown them, I showed them an iteration that had a true 12-12 roof pitch to it. And again, the owner pushed back on it, so.
Or was there any consideration, because I think that the comment from I think Margaret or Alex that it looked a bit commercial on the front facade is really interesting, and I would tend to agree with that. Like, is there a way to maybe increase the pitch, but then taking that portion that's wood paneled and doing a secondary gable, so we have like the double to break up that piece aesthetically? It also would be a bit more contextual to the historic massing to do like the double. Is that translating?
Yes.
my hand motions.
No, yes, I see where you're going with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like, is there some kind of compromise in that area that would help so it doesn't feel just like this bizarrely proportioned? Do you know what I mean? Striking the balance there. The other thing that is a little pickier that does also feel a bit commercial to me is the awning over the door. Like the way, if we want to compromise on not having the door front facing, which is kind of sticky, I think, for both us and for landmarks, is there a way to make that feel, it's like we have like an unusual window pattern, and then there's like a door awning that kind of overlaps and competes with the lentil over that window. I don't know if it's just like a finer detail that feels a bit more commercial to me. I don't know. I'm trying to work with, you know, balance.
It's that, it's the railing, there's a lot of elements on the front that are just, that don't have.
Feel foreign. Yeah. And I think, I know that they have held a lot to the Tassif's house across the street in terms of being a little bit different aesthetically. And I think we've talked about where the massing of that house and the fenestration patterns have been a bit more contextualized. But like, I'm looking at the picture of their front porch and they don't have any railing. So it's more of like a Italianate stoop reference. And I know that from a height standpoint, you won't get away with that. But I think that yeah, I agree. Like there's something still of those elements coming together that feels yeah, a little bit like it's still not quite there for hitting a few of those context points that I do think that we need to hit. And another,
was there go ahead.
Another small comment on that western facade, where it goes from the wood cladding and then a strip of brick and then into the siding. I think you just need to simplify that and maybe just eliminate the brick. I understand you're trying to turn the corner in terms of like material quality, but I've seen a couple things. I've been observing some new constructions going up in the neighborhood, and I've seen it's just gonna, I feel like that detail in real life is just not gonna look very elegant. It's just gonna look like bizarre facade application. I'd rather almost just see that wood cladding material come up against the brown wood cladding come up against the gray cladding and not have the brick, not mess with that.
Got it. Okay.
And there's nothing wrong either with just having one color, you know, I mean, God forbid, I mean, just, don't overcomplicate it. You know, I think that you're trying to add too much to this one poor facade and you can't take it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. Simplifying is better with the level of, with the amount of material.
Okay.
Is this still concept review or is this hope to be final?
So this was scheduled to be final, so
We can't vote anyways, right?
so it'll go to landmarks just as it would.
Well, I would ask the question, there's a lot of feedback here, and I would wonder if Chris would want to take all this and maybe discuss with the owner and then come back again here, because there's a lot of tweaks that are being recommended. And because this is scheduled for next week, it sounds like there's a lot of things to consider before going to the Landmarks Commission. And is there a rush? Are you okay with waiting another 2 weeks and pushing it out a little bit to address some of these concerns?
Yeah, let me talk to the owner today and see where they would be at with that.
Okay.
And then we can review today's comments.
Yeah, I want to make sure you get this right. And
Yeah.
I don't think we're in any huge rush to get this done. I mean, yes, I'm sure they want to get this done as quickly as possible, but get it done right instead of
Mhm.
something. Question on the brick. I know it was in a commercial area, and I know we want to avoid making things look commercial, but this committee once approved, at least once, I don't know others, a more purplish hued brick to be a more modern. Would that be a direction that the committee would be okay with, or is there another hue rather than gray? Or I know they'd probably not want to go red but is there somewhere that would be a nice middle ground for them to consider?
I mean, there's like, there's gradations of red too, you know, and yeah, I mean, I guess the answer for me, Carl, is yes. I'd consider anything. Nothing's, you know.
I think I might dissent a bit from Alex's opinion. The gray actually doesn't bother me that much. It's the fact that the gray and the cedar to me don't really relate at all. So to me, I will say personally, just not a huge fan of the faux cedar paneling as is, but it's more that those the composition of the color scheme to me doesn't really relate to each other, which also adds to that feeling of like too many materials.
Many
happening.
materials.
And-
Yeah,
and
I
the-
mean,
and the
even if
thing
it
with-
was,
Good
I was
one.
gonna say, even if it was like the gray siding with the gray brick, that might even be more appealing because it would just be we're back to just two materials. Instead
Yeah, I
of-
think if for example, the area that's cedar right now, if that little tower portion was brick, for example, and the rest were just the gray siding, that to me would be a big step aesthetically in kind of hitting that contextual mark. But if this is a material that they really want, then maybe it's the brick that needs to be adjusted to play nicely with that.
And if we are going to continue to talk about brick, one detail that I put off because I didn't know if it was necessary at this point is then to talk about the mortar and how the mortar is struck and the color of the mortar. Because what you don't want is to see this dark brick and then have this, you know, I've seen an example that's just awful of really white mortar, like, and you just see these white lines and you're not. So the mortar color, the way the mortar is struck, the shadowing, all those details come into play when we get this thing down to more final, if we're sticking with brick. So, okay, well, I think if I'm reading the room right, I think it would be good, Chris, to come back. I don't think it would get support if voted on today. So maybe we do that next time at our next meeting.
Okay.
And we'll be in touch, Chris. Just keep me posted, whatever the decision is. And if you want to come back, we will definitely, if you feel you have the time to, we can schedule you for the next meeting or the meeting after that, whatever works.
That'll work.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chris, and thank you to your clients for their, I know that this can be a long, difficult process for people, so we appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Antonia, do you want to go ahead and call the meeting end?
Yep, the meeting is officially over. Do we have any other